we take this opportunity to acknowledge the shared traditional and unceded territory of the Coast Salish people, on which we are fortunate to work, learn, and play, and on which Fleetwood Park is located. We acknowledge the Katzie, Semiahmoo, and Kwantlen First Nations. We also acknowledge the rich and diverse population of people who have come to the Surrey School District and Fleetwood Park Secondary, who contribute to a rich, warm, dynamic, and inclusive culture.
We ask you all to please rise for the playing of our national anthem.
Oh, Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all of us command. With glowing hearts we see the rise, the true North strong and free. From far and wide, oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. Oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Welcome to Fleetwood Park's virtual Remembrance Day Assembly. I'm Oliver.
I'm Aryan.
And I'm Kate.
And we'll be your hosts for today's ceremony. We may wonder why we hold these ceremonies annually to remember the events of the past. We often take for granted the continual peace in Canada, as well as the celebrated diversity and multiculturalism that exists amongst our population. These came to be as a result of past and present wars being fought. Tolerance and patriotism were produced because of the hardships experienced during times of war. Countless lives were taken from families as soldiers risked their existence each day in hopes of achieving a future absent of war. We must never forget the sorrows and tragedies experienced by those who lived through the time of war, and those whose lives have become devoted to the war effort. Let us remember those who fought and endured, as well as those who didn't get the chance to say their goodbyes.
The sacrifices demonstrated so selflessly by those who served show just how fortunate we are to be sitting in a safe atmosphere within a harmonious country. However, there are still constant sacrifices being made by soldiers fighting for causes across the globe. Lives are being taken, and conflict is seemingly unresolvable. The horrors experienced within the past wars are still a reality for many Canadian peacekeepers today. People like you and I, who have a home and a family who have shaped them, are still enduring the adversities of war. You may ask what we could possibly do as the youth of our nation. The most valuable tool our generation has is knowledge, and with it we can maintain a positive and rectifiable mindset, inhibiting future wars. To avoid the repetition of history, we must never forget the lengths to which servicemen and women went in order to save lives, liberate the conquered, and attain peace. There are so many fallen soldiers we cannot forget, for without them, we would not be living the lives we do today.
As some of you may not know, our community of Fleetwood holds the roots of its name in remembrance of one of its local servicemen who sacrificed his life for our freedom. Fleetwood held its origin as early as 1888 in a small homesteading community of the area, but remained without a name until many decades later. With the declaration of World War I on July 28, 1914, the Fleetwood family, like many other English immigrants, felt honor-bound to support their former home country on the European fronts. Many enlisted to see action overseas, but could never have predicted the horrors that would await them. Arthur Thomas Fleetwood joined the 46th Infantry Battalion of the Canadian Expeditionary Force in August 1915. Not soon after his arrival on the front, in September of 1917, Lance Corporal Fleetwood was wounded in battle, and due to the poor condition of the trench life and lack of medical supplies, died of his injury. When word came back to Fleetwood family, his sister, Edith, applied for a charter from the provincial government to name her community in Thomas' honor, and with thanks to the sacrifice of Fleetwood and all the other men from around the world who fought for our peace and safety, that Fleetwood would grow to a beautiful, prosperous community we know it as today.
Why is Remembrance Day important?
To show respect to those who have fought for us.
To reflect and acknowledge such things, or like the service of the veterans.
I think it's a day for us to acknowledge the courage and the sacrifice of those ones who fought for our country. And the word I think describes it the best is appreciation.
I believe Remembrance Day is a day for people to commemorating all the sacrifices from the veterans, and reminds us that the harmony, peace, and stability we have now should be cherished.
So Remembrance Day is a day to mourn all the people and the victims of war and to remember where we've been.
Remembrance Day is important because it's important to remember those who've died in service of us.
So at its most basic level, Remembrance Day is about remembering people who, Canadian military members who have passed away in a variety of conflicts that Canada was involved in. At a broader level, it is about remembering all people who have passed in all military conflicts. But I think the most important level, and the one that I am constantly reminded of, is that Remembrance Day is about a reflexive remembering, about a remembering of the future, and what will the future remember? Is it inevitable that people will die in military conflicts? Is it inevitable that people will die adjacent to or because of military conflicts? How many people will be on the list to remember in the future? And the question that comes from that is, what can we do to make sure that list doesn't get any larger than it has to?
Now we will have our local cadet troop and our principal, Mr. Ken Hignall, to lay the flags and wreath on the stand to honor those who fought for our country.
Squad! Attention! By the sector! Quick! March! Squad! Oh! Squad! Dismiss!
We'll now have our candle lighting ceremony with our grade representatives.
This flame represents the lives lost during the war effort and the lives still affected today.
We light this candle to recognize all the suffering, sorrow, and grief that led to our relatively peaceful country.
This flame represents the gratitude for the men and women who have risked their lives for our safety.
We light this candle in honor of those who still struggle in their fight for peace.
This flame represents unity and compromise, concepts we must all understand.
We will now have a reading of In Flanders Fields by John McCrae by Clement Lee.
In Flanders fields, the poppies blow. Between the crosses, row on row, that mark our place, and in the sky, the larks still bravely singing, fly. Scars heard amid the guns below. We are the dead, short days ago. We lived, felt dawn, sought sunset glow. Loved and were loved, and now we lie in Flanders fields. Take up our quarrel with the foe. To you, from failing hands, we throw. The torch be yours to hold it high. If ye break faith with us who die, we shall not sleep, though poppies grow in Flanders fields.
We now ask that everyone please stand for a moment of silence. You may now be seated.
We would like to emphasize the importance of donations this year. Due to the effects of COVID-19, many branches of the Royal Canadian Legion have been forced to shut down and remain shut down to this day. This leaves our veterans without the necessary services to adjust back to civilian life. They will no longer receive financial support, mental health services, aid for the homeless, and support for their families. So please, consider donating anything you can. Any money can be given to your A Block teachers and will go to our local legions and supporting our veterans.